This MMA 30 segment is powered by Bodybuilding.com, the #1 sports nutrition e-tailer. Get the latest products from Muscle Farm at Bodybuilding.com. Right now joining us on the program, the #1 contender in the UFC's bantamweight division, Mr. Urijah Faber, is joining us on the program. He's got a big fight coming up, going to be headlining UFC 132, which is coming to Las Vegas on July the 2nd. What's going on, Urijah? Nice to have you on the program.
Just chilling, man. I'm relaxing here, getting ready to watch some Strikeforce fight, so I'm just chilling.
What's your take? Main event tonight. Nick Diaz, Paul Daly. Who do you got?
Man, I'm really pulling for Diaz. You know, I'm a big fan of his, and I think, you know, he's got to be careful. But if he's smart, you know, Diaz has never been knocked out, but I think his best bet is to take this one to the ground.
What are you a big fan of when it comes to Nick Diaz?
I'm a big fan of the way he trains and the way he fights. You know, I think as far as his personality goes, he's really just truly being himself, and you can't knock a guy for that, even though it's not the most, smooth type of personality that people like to see. But you know, he comes from a rough place, and he has his own interpretations of things, but I really like the way he trains, you know?
It is almost the antithesis of Urijah Faber. Like, you're this, like, totally laid-back, cool guy from California. You know, you just represent, like, the beach community. And then there's also from California, Nick Diaz, but he's from Stockton. He's always shouting out Chevy dealerships. He just seems angry at the world. So, yeah, mad respect for his fighting style, but when it comes to personalities, you guys are kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. Would you ever engage in the sort of antics that Nick Diaz does when it comes to really kind of verbally assaulting an opponent? And I ask because of who you're fighting for this next fight.
You know, the thing with Diaz, I don't think he has any antics. He's just being himself, and that's the way I am too. Most of the time, I'm pretty happy-go-lucky, but you know, if I don't like someone, I'll say it. I speak my mind, and I don't really hold back. So. You know, I don't get too in-depth with that stuff, but there's definitely some emotion involved when you fight someone you don't like, and I'm not going to be cussing at him and head flinching at the guy, but I am going to try to beat him up.
Well, you're fighting Dominick Cruz, and after you won at UFC 128 out there in Newark, New Jersey, you actually got on the microphone. You said, "Hide your kids, hide your wife. I'm coming for that belt." And it seems like you are really, truly, genuinely excited for this fight with Dominick Cruz. Is that the case?
I really am, man. I feel like the biggest thing here is the UFC belt, and he's got it. I want it, and I feel like I'm the guy that deserves to have it. So my job is to go out there and prove that and beat him up and take it.
Urijah Faber is our guest today here on the MMA 30 Radio Hour, and let's just detail why you guys dislike each other so much. What happened between you and Dominick Cruz to create this bad blood?
You know, it's just kind of, you know, there's a kind of a mutual respect between fighters. You know, in general, and I feel like he's just been kind of an immature little baby ever since I met the guy, and just rubbed me the wrong way, doing stupid stuff. Like, it started out him drawing over my face on the posters that we give to charity and the fighters take home for themselves. He was signing his name over my face like a little kid, and then you know, you think, okay, then we fight it and it's over, and be humble after that. But you know, it's one thing to be humble and when you're winning. It's another thing to be humble when you're in defeat, and I feel like he was still just a little baby and kind of talking trash and being disrespectful, hanging posters up of me and in his gym and defacing him and stuff like that. It's like the bottom line is it doesn't really piss me off. It just says, all right, this guy's kind of a D-bag, and so you know, that's the way it is. So people ask me about it because we're going to fight each other and we're going to have to our paths are going to have to cross. But the bottom line is I just call it how I see it. And, I mean, I got to fight this guy, and I got to deal with him, and I don't like him very much.
Well, you're the only person to ever dish Dominick Cruz a loss, and that happened back in 2007. Do you think that Dominick Cruz has significantly grown as a fighter, or do you think that you still have that riddle figured out?
You know, the riddle's changed from both of us. You know, I wasn't even with my trainers at this time. My stand-up was nowhere near what it is today, and along with my jiu-jitsu and my wrestling and everything else. So he's a lot different fighter. I'm a lot different fighter, but I'm the guy that can beat him. I know I can. He's not a dangerous guy. He's good at what he does, which is, you know, sticking and moving and being elusive and things like that. But if you look at the guys that give him trouble on their feet, Joseph Benavidez, I think, gave him the hardest fight on his feet. I think he beat him on the stand-up side and lost due to a couple takedowns. But I know where I stand with Scott Jorgensen and Joseph Benavidez and Bowles and these guys that he's beat narrowly a lot of times, and I know I'm gonna be able to beat him.
Urijah Faber, our guest today here on the MMA 30 Radio. We're talking about his fight against Dominick Cruz, which is going to be happening at UFC 132, the main event, on July 2nd right here in Las Vegas. You submitted Dominick Cruz last time that you guys fought. It was in the first round, 1 minute and 38 seconds in, so you guys didn't spend a tremendous amount of time in the cage together. And like you mentioned, he is an elusive guy. He's hard to catch. How are you going to answer for that speed that Dominick Cruz has been showing in some of his recent fights?
If you look at my last two fights at 135s, I've rarely been hit. I think there's maybe 2 to 3 times where I got caught with solid punches in 2 fights with both guys that are considered stand-up guys. Mizugaki had a knockdown, drag-out war with Miguel Torres and all stand-up, and Eddie Wineland's been knocking everyone down and knocking people out, and he barely laid a hand on me. And I don't think that Dominick Cruz is leaps and bounds above anyone in the division. He wins some decisions, and he had a good showing against Jorgensen, who was just a terrible matchup for him. But I just don't think he's going to do any damage to me, and I'm going to be just as elusive, but I'm going to be more dangerous.
Again, our guest today here on the MMA 30 Radio Hour is Urijah Faber, and there was a lot of talk about you guys being the coaches of the Ultimate Fighter 14 before all this stuff fired up with the guys Chael Sonnen and Michael Bisping. And it was interesting because Dana White at the press conference, when you were sitting next to him post-UFC 128, a member of the press actually asked Dana, is there a possibility that these guys are going to be the coaches on the next season of The Ultimate Fighter? And I was sitting like 3 feet away from you. He said yes. And then I asked him literally 10 minutes later, Dana White, in a one-on-one interview for MMA 30, whether or not that was the case. And he said, no, we're considering other guys. What have you heard about this situation with coaching the Ultimate Fighter 14? And did it ever seem like it was a possibility? And maybe is that still on the table somewhere?
For me, I mean, other than hearing it from the press, it hasn't ever been a real possibility. I mean, anything's possible, I guess, but no, I haven't really heard anything about it. In that press conference, I think Dana White said, yes, Urijah Faber will be a coach on the Ultimate Fighter at some time. So I think he's just planning on
in like 8 years from now. Got
it. Whatever. So it's like, he will be at some point. Urijah Faber will be a coach on the Ultimate Fighter, and it made it seem like, it's going to happen eventually, but not right now.
So you win this title, let's say, on July the 2nd. We've talked about it before. I mean, the bantamweight division is loaded with guys that are buddies of yours, but you don't want to fight those guys, clearly, and rightfully so. But a fight that everyone's been talking about for a long time is you versus Miguel Torres. And he is in the bantamweight division. He's a very tough guy. He's also coming off of a win. If he puts another win together here, is this finally the time when you think, as Urijah Faber, that it may be right to consider a Miguel Torres matchup now that it could potentially headline a UFC card? It is for potentially a big payday?
Yeah, I think so. And, I mean, notoriety for me has just been going through the roof as the years go on, and I'm ready for some big fights. And Miguel has a pretty good following. I feel like he's lost a little bit of steam over the years as far as notoriety goes, but people like him. People like to watch him fight, and I think that'd be a fight that would interest people. But right now I'm focused on beating up Dominick Cruz and spending the least amount of time with him as possible.
You guys, you specifically, have been a very, very, very popular champion over the WEC in the past, and you're one of the few guys, in my opinion, that's really broken through to that next level when it comes to sponsorship deals and everything else, and it's because you are a marketable guy. But did you see a marked difference just going from the WEC into the UFC, or did things remain about the same for you when you made that crossover?
I can only spend time in a certain little world, and that's my own world where I'm at my house and my gym and occasionally going out in the public. So it's like things have pretty much stayed the same for me, but I see potential for them to get a lot crazier over the years. And I'm excited about the next few years of my career, and I feel like the sport in general is just blowing up, and I'm one of the guys that's at the forefront of it. So I can just see big things in the future, and you can feel in general, the sport just growing, and it has been a little bit different.
You've headlined 6 or so, or half a dozen or so, Zuffa events up until this point in the WEC. This will be the first UFC that you headline. Is there any added pressure, and can you tell us what headlining UFC 132 means to you?
I don't feel any added pressure. You know, it's like I said, I've been in big events before, but I'm really honored to be the guy again that's kind of leading the way for the little guys. I think as the first pay-per-view guy for the WEC, as the first head of the 45-pound division, and then now the 35 division, and the first 35-pound fight to ever headline a UFC. I mean, it's an honor, and I appreciate the opportunity from Lorenzo, Anna, and everyone at the Zuffa family, and I'm not going to disappoint, man. I'm going to be out there and fight until the bitter end like I do.
Uriah, hey, it's Larry Pepe. How you doing?
What's up, Larry? How are you?
I'm just going to be everywhere you call in from now on.
People are smart, getting you involved.
That's it, man.
Hey, if that's the case, you need to call into ESPN so that way Larry can get hooked up with that too.
I'll just get the itinerary from Jeff from now on, if that's okay.
Hey,
hey, man. One question. You know, the early odds came out, and Dominick is like a -170 favorite. That surprised me, given your performances at 135 and given that you beat him in the past. Are you surprised, and where do you think that comes from?
Oh, I have no idea about how that stuff works, but the bottom line is smart people are going to make some money. That's good for all my buddies.
You know, as somebody that is a part of the MMA scene and a very popular fighter, do you find that a lot of your buddies do go out and gamble on you a little bit when you fight?
Yeah, big time.
Do they give you grief if you do lose?
What's that?
Do they give you grief if you do lose? They're like, thanks a lot, dude.
Not right away. I'll hear about it some months afterwards, but not right away.
Urijah Faber is headlining the card at UFC 132 against Dominick Cruz. It is going to be the first time that Urijah headlines a UFC card, and of course, same for Dominick as well. And it's going to be right here in Las Vegas for the UFC Bantamweight Championship on July 2nd. Urijah, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, man. Can't wait to see you headline a card. I'm sure that this is a dream come true for you, and it's really exciting for us, all being big fans of yours, to see you in this moment.
Well, thanks, guys, and I do appreciate the support all the way through, man. I love having you guys on the team, and I look forward to putting on the show.
Anyone that you want to thank before we go?
Just my managers, MMA Incorporated, and my clothing line, formathletics.com. All my guys on Team Alpha Male, and Amp Energy for always having my back.
Okay. Thanks so much, Urijah. Have a great day, man.
Thanks, guys.